Good afternoon, testing audio. Audio check for May 23rd, Gadsden Independent School District School Board meeting.
Es muy espectacular para mí. Oh, ya pusieron la agenda para la GETSA. Ya la pusieron y las fechas y los días ya están en el Face. Puedes meterte la GETSA y te das todas las fechas y todo eso. Y lo que va a haber, antes ibas y pagabas. Ahora no. Va a haber unas que va a estar gratis. Unas fechas. Que cabrón, es que no, están cerca, un avioncillo y pecho.
Testing audio.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. Just a reminder to the audience that's here in person, if you would like to address the board this evening, make sure you fill out one of these yellow forms and make sure you turn it in to Ms. Marilu Delgado, our administrative assistant. Thank you. Okay, so now I call to order this Gadsden Independent School District regular school board meeting for Thursday, May 23rd, 2024, and the time is 5:01 p.m. Ms. Delgado, can you please take roll call?
Mr. Castillo,
Present.
Ms. Flores,
Present.
Mr. Lira,
Present.
Ms. Murillo,
Present.
Ms. Rodriguez. Present. Madam President, we have established quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Delgado. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the New Mexico flag. Secretary Murillo, can you please read our mission statement?
The Gadsden Independent School District will provide diverse educational opportunities that empower students to be successful in an ever-changing world. El Distrito Escolar Independiente de Gadsden brindará diversas oportunidades educativas que capacitarán a los estudiantes para tener éxito en un mundo cambiante.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to item 3 on our agenda, Superintendent Dempsey's district updates and recognition. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, thank you for joining us this evening. Our first item, which is student recognition. So today we have the Chaparral Middle School Mesa team. Robbie is here. Miss Levy, Robbie, I'm messing up your name here. I'm sorry. Help me. Lariva. Sorry, I wanted to call you something else, Robbie. Welcome. Okay. Thank you so much. It was something nice, though.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good afternoon, President Salazar, school board members, and Superintendent Dempsey. My name is Robbie Lariva. I'm the assistant principal here at Chaparral Middle School. And I am here to introduce to you two of our amazing teachers that have worked with our MESA students, and they've put in many, many hours of practice, and they've gone for a competition, and they're just awesome. So I'm here to introduce Ms. Vida Montes and Mr. Sierra.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board and Superintendent Dempsey, President Flores. On March 18, 3 teams composed of 9 students competed in the MESA USA competition this year. The MESA USA competition involved the students picking one of the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals to create a device or an app using coding in order to solve a problem in their community. One of our teams, Baby Safe Pulse, placed 2nd place overall. And here is Isabel and Walter to tell you about their project.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board and Superintendent Dempsey. My name is Isabel Maldonado, and I'm an 8th grader at Chaparral Middle School, and this is my team. Our team designed a monitor that would be able to measure both heart rate and oxygen levels of an infant. The reasoning behind this device is to help reduce infant mortality rates along with the UN Sustainable Development Goal 3. Our device uses a MAX 30-102 to measure both the heart rate and oxygen levels and displays them on our OLED. With the buzzer located on the side of our device, that buzzer helps alert our user if her baby's vitals drop to a dangerous level. There's a soft Velcro strap that can be easily attached to the baby's leg. This device can help one of the most important global problems, which is SIDS, which sadly affects a lot of infants. Our device only costs $14 rather than a whole bunch of other devices related to it that can cost up to $300. In conclusion, our device can effectively measure both heart rate and oxygen using our MAX 30-102 and alerts our user if anything bad would happen to the baby. Thank you for your time and attention.
And that team was Isabel Maldonado, Walter Mora, Carla Moss, and Eileen Ramirez, who weren't able to be here. Another one of our teams, Pantry Pal, earned 3rd place overall, and that team was composed of Aiden Aguayo and Cesar Silva. Aiden?
Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board and Superintendent Dempsey. My name is Aiden Aguayo. I'm a 7th grader at Chaparral Middle School. I also had a partner. His name was Cesar Silva, but he was unable to make it today. The project that my team had developed, the product that my team was able to develop was Pantry Pal, an easy access and very intuitive app for the community to use, so there is more food access knowledge available to them. The motive behind this is we took several surveys and research to find out there's no available food sources such as a pantry, which our community does not know, Chaparral community does not know of. Our product is made using code.org, which is very intuitive and easy to code using JavaScript and block coding. The way our device works is the user is allowed to choose their language, either being English or Spanish. And upon choosing, they are taken to the ID verification screen where they are required to put their username and they're allowed to put their full name and an address as available in New Mexico. Upon continuing, they're taken to the Pantry Pal home screen where they're given 5 options. Pantry info, how this helps, our pantry, find this, and why are we doing this? Clicking on how this helps shows the user to how our app will be able to support food security in our community. Next, clicking on Pantry Info takes the user to a page where they're given information about a pantry that we partnered with and interviewed, which was called the Women's Intercultural Center, showing their pantry's opening dates and times and how their pantry system operates. Clicking on our pantry takes the user to a page where they're able to check the availability of food items. For example, canned beans, which our app will tell them if it is available in the food pantry. And clicking on Find This takes you to a page where they're able to find where the Women's Intercultural Center is located, along giving them their office number and input to give them to a Google Maps site or the Women's Intercultural Center's website. And lastly, clicking on why are we doing this shows the motive behind the creation of Pantry Pal, which shows the research that we took showing hunger rates in New Mexico. Thank you for your time and attention. I've been Chaparral Middle School Team 3.
And our 3rd team that competed placed 1st place overall and will be representing New Mexico for the middle school Mesa USA National Engineering Competition in June in San Diego, June 24th through 27th. And they are Rogelio Betancourt, Caleb Sanchez, and Edlin Gamboa.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board and Superintendent Dempsey. My name is Caleb Sanchez, and I am an 8th grader at Chaparral Middle School, and this is my team. Did you know that around 530,000 tons of food are wasted each year by schools in the United States? At our school, 2 main issues contribute to this problem. Firstly, students often don't know what lunch is being served in advance, leading to them not eating their lunch. Secondly, our cafeteria manager, Norma Payares, has to estimate how many kids will eat that day, often leading in too many lunches being prepared. This results in approximately 25 lunches wasted daily. To combat this, our team has developed a solution, a device that will provide students with advanced lunch menu information and give cafeteria workers an accurate count of expected eaters. By keeping everyone informed, our goal is to significantly reduce our cafeteria's food waste. Our initiative aligns with UN Sustainable Development Goal 12, more specifically Target 12.3, which aims to halve food waste by 2030 at consumer and retailer levels.
Here's a demonstration of our food truck app. Every morning during first period, students will first enter their 5-digit ID numbers. After they've entered their 5-digit ID numbers, the lunch menu for that day will be displayed across the screen. Next, they will decide if they want to eat or not. Finally, they will be taken to the thank you screen, where they can then go to an additional informational screen that contains information on how to reduce food waste in their schools. Due to internet issues and lack of electronic devices at our schools, our team decided to make a physical device as an option. To use it, students will first enter their 5-digit ID numbers. After they've entered their 5-digit ID numbers, the lunch menu for that day will be displayed across the screen or LCD. Next, they will press the button if they want to eat. Finally, they will be taken to the thank you screen. If using the device and they do not want to eat, there is no need to press anything, and the LCD will go back to the enter ID screen after 10 seconds. For Norma to view the total count on the device, all she needs to do is press the button in the enter ID screen.
Thank you for your time and attention.
That was the Mesa USA competition back in March. On this past month in April, on April 30th, we also had 2 teams compete for the Mesa Day competition, which was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And we had 2 teams composed of 6 students each. And they had to do some team challenges such as building a bridge for sustainable agriculture and building, answer questions about healing our New Mexico rivers, and build a crane for transporting animals from a forest fire. Also, they did a Mesa Mayhem. So team 1 placed 3rd place on their crane device and 1st place overall. Those students are Rogelio Betancourt, Caleb Sanchez, Jared Medina, Jose Coronado, Eileen Ramirez, and Walter Mora. They placed 1st place overall in the Mesa Day competition. Our second team, our team 2, placed 2nd place on their crane device, and then they placed 6th place overall. And that was Cesar Silva, Manuel Reyes, Aaron Escalera, Abdel Vasquez, Carla Mas, and Adeline Gamboa. And we had 2 alternates, which were Hazel Vasquez and Isabel Maldonado. Once again, thank you to the board, Superintendent Dempsey, and our administration at Chaparral Middle School for all their support throughout all the years that we've been doing MESA. Thank you to the parents for helping out and encouraging and supporting your children to continue with the MESA program and bringing them to the club and to practice. I want to thank Mr. Sierra for helping me. He was my co-sponsor this year, and also for my husband's support and the MESA staff for everything they do to keep the program going for our students. A special thank you to the students because of all their hard work and dedication. I want to thank them because they spent a lot of their time to compete and practice and do everything they need to do to win. So they always make us proud. And thank you for allowing me to work with these amazing students for 16 years. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to board members' report, we'll go ahead and start with our Vice President, Claudia Rodriguez.
Thank you. Well, great job, Mesa. Thank you, Ms. Viramontes. You say 16 years, and that's wonderful. I know that you always take a lot of time, and I always hear Mr. Viramontes is part of this. Thank you to him as well for taking the time, and then now Mr. Sierra for collaborating with you, and for the students. It's amazing the great things that you can do, right? There's a lot that it takes a lot of time, but obviously you have accomplished that. So thank you. Yesterday I attended the Project Search graduation, and it's something that we need to definitely keep supporting, to see those students, the great thing that they have accomplished by being part of this project. And thanks again to Ms. Daisy Lira with the Beehive for collaborating and making sure that the students have a place to be able to work. So that was wonderful. And well, it's the end of the school year. Please have a safe summer and enjoy it. Tomorrow we will start with graduations, Alta Vista, and then we'll have the rest. Looking forward to that. It's always like the one thing, or one of the biggest things, right, to see the students achieve something that they have worked so hard for many, many years. So congratulations to all our seniors, and to all the other students, the rest of the students. Please have a safe summer and enjoy it, so that you can charge your batteries, so you can have a lot of energy when we come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Moving on to our Board Secretary, Arlene Murillo.
Good evening, everybody. Congratulations to the MESA team. You guys have amazing ideas. I really hope that you guys really push the lunches. I really like that idea, and I think what a better place than implement it in your own schools. So if that's an opportunity that you guys can bring, I will challenge you guys to do that and then expand it throughout the district. So I think that will be a pretty neat idea. Also, I also attended the Project Search ceremony, and it was really nice to see seeing those students growing. They come in very shy at the beginning of the year, and then they don't know what they're doing, and some of them, they had some breakdowns. Some of them, they wouldn't even say hi. And then seeing them yesterday giving us a hug, I'm like, okay, you guys came out of your shell. Like some of them crying, because some didn't get hired by the Hive, but then others got hired through other positions, but they all wanted to remain together. And like I told them, that's part of life. You're not gonna stay with the same people throughout your life, and that's okay, but make the best of it. Challenges are gonna be coming, and that's okay too. But the El Paso Foundation was amazing by lending us the venue, the food. I mean, everybody just came together and put this event for nobody to be able to pay. So I think that was just amazing. It was all through donations. Also, yesterday was the award ceremonies. I wasn't able to attend Santa Teresa High School, but my sister and my mom did, and they said it was a pretty smooth event. There was a lot of people, a lot of parents, so I really want to thank the parents for showing up and supporting your kids during these important events. My son received a cord, and he had no idea. He didn't want to go. He said, why am I going to go if I'm not going to get anything? But I got a call, and they said, we're calling the parents, so please try to show up. And so it was a neat experience for him to be able to be part of that. Also, yes, graduations are coming for the students, because I know some students are here. I don't know if there's any seniors here, but please be safe. I know there's parties going on, and just please make sure that you guys are safe. And then I know it was end of the year events as well at middle schools and elementaries and parties, and so you guys earned it. The teachers, thank you so much for everything that you guys do, and the administrators as well. Have an amazing summer. And for the rest, we'll see you guys in graduation. That is all for me.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to Board Member Daniel Castillo.
Thank you, Madam President. To Ms. Viramontes, congratulations on since I've been on the board that you've been here, I think you've not only maintained the bar, but have always told your kids that there's always room for improvement, and every year I've seen it, and it's all due, it starts with you trickles on to them, and you can hear the passion in their voice. I mean, it's there, you know, so thank you for your guidance, to your husband for his support, and to your administration with helping you out. But thank you for leading them in the right direction. And as mentioned, graduations are coming up. It's interesting that I think the majority of the kids see it as the end of something, but commencement means the start. So hopefully everybody knows it's the start of something new for them, onto bigger and better things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Moving on to Board Member Cristian Lira.
I want to recognize all of the teachers and staff and administration. I'm the newest board member here, and this week has been busy for ourselves, and it just made me realize, I can't even realize or comprehend how busy our teachers and staff throughout this week. It's surreal. It's surreal what you guys go through, because it's ongoing all this week. I'm excited to be part of you guys and see all of the progress that you guys have done. So I do want to thank the teachers, staff, and administration for all of the hard work that you guys have done. I was a part of the project research dinner yesterday in graduation, and as well I share the same sentiment as my colleagues. Those kids are amazing. They're fun to be with. They're so bright, and they light up your day. So I would like to go ahead and keep supporting that project as well. And like I said, graduation is coming. Enjoy it, and thank you for everything you guys have done.
Thank you, Mr. Lira. As far as myself, I want to thank you, Rina Viramontes. I actually had the opportunity to teach at the same middle school a while back, and you are a phenomenal teacher. You really care. And so thank you for your dedication to the community of Chaparral. And kiddos, thank you for being awesome. And parents that are in the audience, thank you, because the commitment, the number of hours that our kids spend doing this is, the results are awesome at the end. So thank you for your support, and thank you, kids, for your dedication. And I would ask Superintendent Dempsey this evening that, you see Chaparral Middle School kids excelling. And I hope that this upcoming school year, we really at Chaparral High School make an effort to really dedicate our time and the sponsor at the high school, so that the kids can continue, they're talented, and that if they can continue effectively, I would say, the program at Chaparral High School, simply because also I do know that if the kids continue being in this program, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year, they are eligible to receive a scholarship. And while to some it might be, I think it's 1,000 last time but hey, every single cent counts. And I would ask, sir, that, it continues and that it be successful at the high school, because they deserve it. Also, I double booked myself. So I do want to apologize to Patricia Garcia, our sponsor for the project search. I had also been invited to the senior award show at Chaparral High School, so I was not able to attend that. Thank you, those of you who went and representing the board. So congratulations to those graduates. So last night I was in attendance at the Chaparral High School Senior Award Program, and I'm very happy with our class of 2024. Throughout the evening, kids were recognized for, improvement and outstanding merit with the different departments, so that was awesome to see. I also want to thank Principal Lopez for allowing parents. They had approached me, about handing diplomas to kids on stage, but I really appreciate that there was what I'm going to call a compromise. I don't know. I was not part of that conversation, but it was I was very pleased to see upon entering the stage that there was a reserved section for the top 10% parents, and so that's the first time in history of Chaparral High School. So maybe we're starting something new that we can continue, because it is awesome to see parents being able to honor their students, because they were part of that. They're their first teachers. So thank you, Principal Lopez, for the opportunity for our parents. And then I also want to take the time and remind our students, actually students that are here from Chaparral Middle School. Some of you guys are going on to Chaparral High School. You're going to be freshmen next year. If you ever drive with your parents to go pay water, if you happen to buy water from Mr. Colquitt, and if your parents bank with First American Bank, which is on McCombs in our community, you see two big signs that say out there, study hard and apply. And so hopefully that scholarship, the First American Scholarship, continues to be part of our community. So it was awesome. I don't recall how many students received the scholarship last night, but I think that's like a $30,000 scholarship. It's called an access scholarship. So what that means is that after all other scholarships are applied at the university of choice of the student, then the money kicks in. So that's an awesome opportunity. So I would encourage you also, I have two kids that graduated from one that graduated, one that's about to graduate. I would encourage you guys, don't wait till the end. Start writing your resumes, start writing, essays. Talk to if you have older brothers and sisters, start writing those because it takes time. And so, start doing that and start making a portfolio of all the activities, extracurricular activities that you were involved, because that's what they're asking on those scholarships, okay? I also want to congratulate, there was two young ladies, I don't recall their names, but they will be entering the Navy from Chaparral High School. And to all the seniors entering the military service, thank you very much, and may God bless you on your future endeavors. Let's see. And then the last, two more things is as far as graduation, thank you, Mr. Carmona, thank you, the district, for posting. I've seen them in the district school websites, but I think also on Facebook. Just a reminder to the public that's here and those that are watching, make sure that you follow the guidelines of UTEP. Ladies and gentlemen, if you carry purses or pouches, they're not gonna let you enter. You've gotta have the clear bag policy. So make sure that you follow the rules so that you don't have to be returned back to your car and then have to get back in line. So those are provided, I believe, on Facebook and the school, high school websites. And let's see, with that being said, I know tomorrow is, sir, right, the last day of school for our kiddos, or was it today? It was today. Okay, so enjoy your summer, be safe, and just a reminder, thank you to those families that signed up their kids for the Jumpstart program. And if you didn't, there's also another opportunity if you're not aware of it. The New Mexico Public Education Department is offering what they're calling reading tutoring for the summer. If you look up New Mexico PED on Facebook, you can fill out the application. And for those of you who are out there who are educators, you don't have to be a licensed teacher. They're also looking for teachers to provide this the services to our kids. With that, I conclude my report, and thank you once again for joining us this evening. Moving on to the Human Resources Report. That report is published just for public knowledge. No action on behalf of the board is required. Moving on to item 6. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept school board minutes for May 7th, 2024. Oh, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself now. I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda as is.
Okay, Mr. Castillo has made a motion to accept the agenda as is. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 7. Do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept item 7, board minutes.
Vice President Rodriguez has made a motion that we accept our regular school board minutes for May 7, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to consent agenda. Before I ask for a motion, I did want to have Superintendent clarify item 8D. Actually, item 8C, authorization to add Ortiz and Zamora LLC to GISD vendors list.
Madam
Superintendent
President,
Dempsey.
board members, this is another group of attorneys that work out of Santa Fe, and it adds another opportunity for us to work with them on legal counsel. So it's not replacing anybody, it's just adding more people to the bench.
Are there any questions? Go ahead.
I have a question. Those, I think that's the guy that makes the cowboy jokes, right? Okay, I just wanted to put the face to the name. And so if we add them in the vendor list, now we can contact everybody, and then now we have 2 billings, right? Like they're now another set of attorneys?
Madam President, board members, that's correct. And we've had multiple sets of attorneys for the whole time I've been here. Cuddy, Los Gallegos, and now we would add this third.
I just wanted also to clarify, I know that I had to, but just for public knowledge. So our current retainer is Walsh and Gallegos, correct?
Madam President, board members, I believe Los Gallegos is the only, when you say retainer, you can retain attorney on many different ways, but Los Gallegos offers a retainer that allows us to call, and if it's the first time you call on a particular topic, there's no charge. So you pay an annual fee for that retainer. The other two, Cuddy and Ortiz Amora, don't offer that type of program that I'm aware of.
So what these gentlemen, and just like Cuddy and the other law firm, we just, every time we call, they will, we have to pay a fee. Okay, and then my other question is, as far as board president or whoever becomes board president in the future, are we locked in just to Walsh and Gallegos, or would we have access to these gentlemen?
Madam President, board members, the board president can choose what attorney they want to use.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, comments, or concerns?
Mr. Dempsey, can you educate me here on the board? So for attorneys, the board doesn't have a contract with a set with one firm, or is there no contract with a firm of attorneys?
Madam President, board members, Mr. Lita, we have multiple contracts. We can use any group of attorney licensed in New Mexico that we choose.
But this is do we currently with a firm that we currently have? Do we have a contract with them or no? Could they be dismissed and these be replaced, or is that how does it work? And then just from previous boards, I mean, to my understanding, we only had like one set of attorneys, and we actually had a contract with them for 2 years or a year for what have. Is this how the first attorneys that that currently have? Do we have a contract with them?
Madam President, board members, Mr. Lita, we haven't formally done an RFP. What you're describing is a formal RFP process, and you don't have to do that if you don't exceed $60,000. And we typically, in legal fees, don't exceed $60,000. But here's what I'm going to tell you about attorneys. I believe that there's specialists in terms of attorneys, and I think there's some that, let's just say, we may be working on a real estate piece, and we want to specialize here, or we have a special education need, and we work on that here. I have yet to find a single attorney that has that range of knowledge for schools. And so it's nice to be able to utilize multiple people in multiple situations.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dempsey. Okay, moving on. So with that being said, do I hear a motion for item 8?
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda with the cowboy haters. Consent agenda.
Mr. That's funny, because I said the same thing to Mr. Dempsey, Mr. Tony. He's funny, though. Okay, so Mr. Castillo has made a motion that we accept the consent agenda as is. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to open forum. Do we have any speakers this evening, Ms. Delgado?
Madam President, we have none.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to action items. There's actually no action items for this evening, so we're going to move on to discussion items. Discussion item 11A, transportation contract for school year 2024-25. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Cadena will present this item.
Good afternoon, Madam President, board members, Superintendent Dempsey. I stand before you for discussion on the 24-25 fleet service transportation contract. The proposed fleet service transportation contract for the school year 24-25 will include the following services by Boone Transportation. To and from school bus service and rents and leases of buses. Additional routes necessary to transition K through 4th grades in Anthony to Loma Linda Elementary and 5th, 6th, and 7th grades to Anthony Elementary. The addition of bus routes to the Yucca Heights Elementary for students living in the Hueco Bolson Estates, northeast of Yucca Heights Elementary. And you have the fleet service contract, and if you can click on Appendix A, that's just the contract, the standard contract we go through every year. And Appendix A, if you can click on that. which is part of the contract, is the number of buses. So you'll see there, they're all identified. The state requires that we identify all of them, including VIN number, vehicle identification. And the Appendix B is the payment schedule. And they were basically the figures that Ms. Martinez brought to you during the budget approval process on Tuesday. I stand for any questions, comments.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? Mr. Castillo?
Madam President, I don't know if that you can or Ludin or Mr. Dempsey, I mean, remember at that board meeting when they were trying, or at the NSBA, that they were talking about changing all the 4-day, right? And then boards were telling them, what about money for transportation? And one other guy said, we got plenty of money. So why are we still short?
Right.
Madam President, board members, that is a fabulous question. And what's interesting is there was a change in the funding formula that removed what they called a density factor. It didn't help us in any way, shape, but it hurt a lot of smaller districts. And that just got rolled out in the last couple weeks. So I would encourage, as we're talking to, so the reality is, so that everybody understands, when we get an allocation, this is what it costs to run the buses. This is what it costs to run the buses. So we have to then use operational dollars to supplement it, okay? So when you're with legislators and you're having conversations about it, New Mexico has the largest cash balance in the state's history, and we didn't fund transportation 100%. And so when you get an opportunity to share that, please be very strong with that, because that's about $1 million we could put back into classrooms that right now we have to transport kids. And this is what, it's very expensive to run buses and maintenance and drivers and all the things, and I'm very thankful for the contractor we have. But the state is not putting the money in transportation, and we continue to go around this conversation. I presented to LFC a couple months ago, and my suggestion was leave the formula alone, set aside a pot of money. I used the number $20 million, and then anyone that's in the red, let them apply to get it. And they didn't do that. It seemed like a very simple way to make everybody whole. They chose not to do that. So when you're with legislators and you're with those individuals, strongly, when they talk about what do you need, we need you to fund transportation 100%, so that then we can use operational dollars for the classroom.
Thank you, sir.
Any further questions, comments? I did have it, and tell me if it's not appropriate to ask. Would it be appropriate to ask, and I know one of our owners of Boone Transportation, and I know that they're not an employer, but as far as raises for their people, or is that at another moment?
Madam President, I probably would, if you want to send me a question, we can put that out to them so that they get an opportunity to prepare, because I don't know if they're prepared to answer that.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, Ms. Flores, they always try to match what the district gives.
Okay.
But we can answer that for you.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening, ma'am. Thank you.
You too.
Okay, moving on to discussion item 11B, Gadsden Independent School District Redistricting Project, Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, this is a project that we're talking about your voting areas. So please, please, please do not connect this with attendance zones for schools, okay? This is your voting precincts. Every few years, based on population, we want to have these balanced. And this project is an attempt to balance. So what you're going to see as we work through this is you're going to see different maps, that some areas will be larger because they have less population. The higher populated areas will be smaller to try to balance the population. And we have a gentleman here to help us with a presentation. might realize, I don't know if you realize you're muted. Is it our side? Hang on just a second. Give us just a minute.
Mr. Sharp, can you hear us? Give us a thumbs up if you hear us. Okay. So can you try speaking? I want to make sure that... Yeah. We're having a little audio issue. Can we take like a 3-minute break? We're going to power down our mixer and power it back up. Yeah, this happened earlier and... We have to wait for it. Dark online,
Really?
so if you'd like us to keep it off, it hinders, it looks poorly.
Oh, and can we request that the AC be lowered? If that's possible, we'd appreciate it.
No, it's awake.
We're all...
So you have grapes?
Can you
You have grapes and fruit.
make it warmer?
There we go.
Can you hire these?
Come on, let's play some music. Let's see. Okay, I think we've got audio. Let's see. All right, Mr. Sharp, go ahead and give it a shot. I think our audio's back up.
Okay, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3.
Loud and clear. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, good evening. My name is Michael Sharp. Good evening, Superintendent, members of the board, and anyone in the audience. I'm Michael Sharp with Research and Polling out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we've been tasked with redrawing your board member election districts. And so what I'd like to do is a couple things. Go through a presentation that kind of discusses the redistricting guidelines and just some of the things that we need to keep in mind as we go through this process. And then after that, I'll go through each of the 5 concepts in some detail, but hopefully not get into the weeds too much on my end, to try to keep it relatively brief. But as we go along, if you have questions, then please feel free to let me know. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get to the presentation part. Let's see. Let's wait till the share screen is enabled. I can kind of go through the first part. So with respect to redistricting, just a little bit of our experience. I've been doing this since 91, 92, so this is my fourth cycle of redistricting. And the company as a whole, we've done a number of projects with throughout the state, including Sunland Park, the City of Sunland Park, Doñana County Commission, City of Las Cruces, City Council. We've also helped out in the past the Las Cruces Public Schools School Board. So hopefully as we go through this, I'll be able to answer whatever questions you may have. First of all, what is redistricting? As Superintendent Dempsey mentioned, this process of redistricting is looking at just the districts from which the board members are elected and not the attendance zones that determine where the children go to school, where students go to school. And when we say redistricting, we need to redraw or draw the lines to determine which voters are represented by each district. So when you go to the polls, you'll see based on where you live, a set of candidates on the ballot, and then you choose one of those candidates. And also determines where you as board members are able to receive those votes from, where you run for election. So why do we redistrict? Well, probably most importantly, it's stated in the state statutes. And it says that any district that has a population greater than 16,000 must redistrict. And so with Gadsden Independent Schools, you have a population greater than 66,000. So it easily exceeds that population requirement. And then the statutes also require that you look at this redistricting issue once every 10 years. And we say once every 10 years because the census is conducted every 10 years, and the census gives us the latest and greatest population data. And so we do it once every 10 years. We wouldn't really want to do it more than once every 10 years. It can get a little crazy. And when population changes, population becomes unequal over time. So 10 years ago, the districts were redrawn so that at the time they were relatively equal in population. Population changes over time. And so over these past 10 years, we've had kind of an unequal distribution throughout the school district, and so we'll need to redistrict. I mentioned the census data already. So what's the process? This is the first of a number of meetings held for the public, for the board to comment, the public to comment if there are any comments from the public. We'll go over the redistricting guidelines. We'll evaluate the current districts. We'll create some plans or concepts. We'll get input about the concepts. And then if we need to, we can revise plans. And then eventually you will adopt a plan as a board, and those boundaries will then go to the county clerk, and they will reassign voters as needed. So if any voters change districts, from 2 to 1 or from 5 to 4 or so on, then the county clerk's office will reassign those folks to the correct district, such that during the next election in November of 2025, the new lines will be in place, and so the folks will be electing the board members based on the new districts. In terms of the number of board meetings, this is I'd say one of 3, maybe a minimum. It really depends on the board. The common question is, well, how many meetings does this take? I like to say, well, the first meeting is informational, kind of introduce the concepts, introduce the guidelines themselves, and then from there you'll kind of get an idea of what concepts you like or don't like. And if for whatever reason one of the concepts is absolutely perfect, and you feel like you don't need to wait anymore to adopt a plan, you could adopt one at the second meeting. But typically what happens is you take a couple meetings, maybe the first or second one, to just kind of look at the plans, comment, make sure you like what you see, and then adopt at a third meeting. But sometimes it takes 2 meetings, 3 meetings, usually 3, maybe sometimes 2, and rarely 4. But it just really depends on the board and what the board needs to make a decision. So there are 5 principles of redistricting. We need to meet these 5 principles in order to stay, I guess, within compliance of state law, of court decisions, and so on. The first 4, equal population, voting rights, compactness, and contiguity, are ones that have been defined by law or the court system. And then the fifth one, communities of interest, is once you take into account those first four and you meet those criteria, then you can kind of use that communities of interest to say, determine what some of your boundaries could look like. But you kind of have to meet those first four. As long as you meet the first four, you should be okay. So who gets counted when looking at redistricting? Who gets counted as part of the population? When the census is conducted, and its mission is to count every single person living within the United States, as well as military personnel serving overseas. But when we're talking about every single person, it's adults, it's children, it's if you had any colleges within the district, college students in the dorms, anybody who's incarcerated, citizens, non-citizens, documented, undocumented, and so on. So it's everybody. And they're counted at the place where they live and sleep most of the time. And so when you see these numbers, theoretically, it's everybody who turned in the census form. It's a constitutional mandate to redistrict. We want to make sure that wherever you live throughout the district, you have equal representation. So equal population equals representation. You have the same share of your particular board members as anybody else does, no matter where they live. For congressional districts, that equal population threshold is really tight. You have to make those districts as equal as practicable. When we redistricted the state of New Mexico a number of years ago, I think the districts were within maybe 1 or 2 people of each other. So pretty exact, very, very close to being equal population to each other. For school boards, we say, well, the population doesn't have to be exactly the same for every single district. They can deviate from what's called the ideal population. We'll get to that in the next slide. So you can deviate from an ideal population by a total number of 10% total deviation, or plus minus 5% from the ideal. And I'll define that on the next slide. So you have a little bit more leeway with school boards. So when we look at the ideal population, how do you define this? Well, you take your total population, which was 66,426 according to the United States Census Bureau, and which was, by the way, about a 6% increase from 10 years ago. So you take that 66,426 divided by the number of districts, or 5, and theoretically, every district, if you hit the ideal population, would be about 13,285 people. When we say substantially equal, we can go above or below that 13,285 by 5%. And as long as we're within that range, that's about 650 people above or below, roughly. And so as long as we're in that range, then the districts are considered equal in population, or substantially equal. And again, this is based on total population and not registered voters. The board members represent everybody throughout the district. Well, let's take a quick look at where the current districts are. Do any of them, the first question we ask is, well, do any of them fall within that plus or minus 5%? And you can easily see with the table on the bottom that every single district is either too big or too small. So districts 1, 3, and 4 are all at least 10% too small. They all have to grow to get, and that percent deviation on the far right-hand side, that's the percent deviation from the ideal population. So districts 1, 3, and 4 all have to grow and get an add population, and district 5, Chaparral, needs to lose a lot of people to get down to closer to that 13,285 number. And you can see in that deviation column how many people above the ideal District 5 is. So it definitely needs to lose, over 4,000 people. And that's a lot. Districts 1 and 3 and 4 need to gain, 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 people. And District 2 is slightly over, so it just needs to lose a little bit. And that's when you look at these in isolation. You can also kind of look in your mind and say, well, where are the districts? And, what sort of potential changes could happen to these districts? And you can see that District 1 is on the low end. The only way that District 1 can add population is go north and go into District 2. The District 5 has a lot of people, has to lose a lot of people. And so we have a couple options that address how District 5 sheds that population. And so we'll go over that in a little bit after the PowerPoint. But just to get ideas, just to show you, well, here are the numbers. Everything's above plus or minus 5% outside of that acceptable range, and so you must redistrict. Second thing is we need to look at minority voting strength. We make sure that we do not dilute the voting strength of ethnic or language minority groups. In the case of Gadsden Independent Schools, the group that is large enough to create majorities in the districts, in any of the districts, is the Hispanic population. And really every single district is, I think, at least 75–80% Hispanic. So we really don't need to really worry about meeting this because every single district provides that opportunity. When we look at compactness, the really important thing to remember about compactness is that it measures a district's shape and not its geographic size. You can have a really large district and area that is compact in shape. Superintendent Dempsey, mentioned briefly in his introductory comments about larger, more densely populated areas. They really don't have to be very big because you don't have to go very far to get districts that meet this criteria that can get to that ideal population. Districts 4 and 5 all have fairly compact populations, and so they don't have to go very far to reach the thresholds that they need to meet. So the two figures on the right, the kind of tannish one and the salmon one, those are roughly equivalent in shape, but they also, and so I think of them as equivalent in compactness, but on the next slide, you'll notice that those same two districts are vastly different in geographic size, with one of them, the tan one, going from Clayton all the way down to Clovis, 100 miles. And then the little salmon one, which is in Albuquerque, and you can barely see it on the left side of the map, that's roughly I-40 in the Rio Grande. And so, but they both have the same population. So that's what the difference is. They both meet that compactness criteria. They just have to go different distances to get the people they need to make them equal. So just examples of compactness. I kept 1991 just to be apples to apples. But in terms of congressional districts, and this was New Mexico's and 3rd District in 1991. And then the ones on the right were Houston and North Carolina. And those on the right were declared unconstitutional because they basically ignored compactness and were drawn for other reasons and completely ignored it and were declared unconstitutional. So we will avoid districts that look like the ones on the right. One thing to keep in mind is the bottom bullet, that the compactness can be affected by the jurisdiction's irregular outer boundary. You don't have to worry too much about that with Gadsden, but just know that, the part that's close to El Paso, Sunland Park is a narrow point, and maybe that affects the looks of a district. So I kind of like to look at the inner boundaries within the district. So then we have contiguity. We want to make sure that every district is one piece. It's not 2 or more pieces. And I gave you 2 quick examples. The one on the left are your current districts. I like to say, well, can you put your pencil in a district and get to every other part of that district without lifting up the pencil? Pretty straightforward. In the figure on the left, those are all contiguous. And I just made up, some districts just to, for illustrative purposes, just to show you the District 2 in that salmon color and District 5 in the kind of, lavender color. Those are 2 completely separate islands for each district, and those would both be not non-contiguous, as just an example. So finally, once you meet those first 4 criteria, well, you meet their equal population, you take care of the voting rights, they're relatively compact, they're all contiguous. Well, then you can say, well, what are the other things we'd like to consider when creating districts? Do we want to respect political subdivisions and neighborhoods and geographic boundaries? For example, precinct lines. If you can follow precinct lines as much as possible, that helps with the election process. Do you want to keep neighborhoods together if you can? Geographic boundaries, maybe you want to follow the Rio Grande, or highways or major roads, historical or cultural traditions, communities that you might want to either keep in one district or try to keep communities together. Multiple communities together in the same district is fine. You can look at the existing districts. Do you want to try to keep them as similar as possible to today's districts? We can look at that. Another common question is, well, what about the current board members? Can we create plans where there is only one board member per district. We don't pair anybody, and we certainly can't. Nothing says that you have to ignore where the current board members live. And you can look at anything else. It can be school locations. How many schools are there per district? Do schools move from one district to another? All sorts of things can be looked at. And we can consider them as long as all the previous redistricting principles are met. So I think that's an important point to make. So we can look at the redistricting concepts. They're rarely perfect. There will always be something about any given concept that that maybe isn't perfect, that you don't like. And that's just because we have so many different factors to work together, and sometimes those factors work against each other. So you have 5 concepts. None of them are necessarily set in stone. If there's a change that you'd like to see, or just want to, can we do this? Can we do that? Then we'll certainly take a look at if those changes can be made. If they meet the criteria, then we'll go ahead and show it if we need to. So that's the presentation on the concepts. And before we move to the, on the principles, before we move to the concepts, I just wanted to know if there are any questions. Thank you.
Questions, comments, concerns for the gentleman? I don't believe we have any, sir. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the concepts. And what I'll do here is I'll describe them and try to give you a rationale behind each one. So let's go ahead and go to just these. So hopefully you see a map in front of you. And these are your current districts. And I wanted to give you just a quick kind of rundown of these numbers because I think it helps. District 5 in Chaparral, that's the largest district and the one that is furthest away from the ideal at 36% over the ideal. And then you look at districts 3 and 4, and they are both over 10% below the ideal. So the thing that pops into my mind is, well, we need to use 3 or 4 or a combination to go into Chaparral and take population. So there's no way around this concept of taking an Anthony-based district and going into and taking population from Chaparral. So you have people from Chaparral and Anthony in the same district. Or I think one of the plans I have, concepts I have, takes District 3 and goes into Chaparral to take that population and add it to 3. So 3 and 4 are both low. Chaparral is high, and so we need to 3 or 4 need to move east to the east. So you can, I guess it's a kind of a big picture decision. Do you create a district which combines Anthony plus some of Chaparral, or do you create a district that combines Mesquite and Vado and La Mesa and San Miguel with Chaparral? So that's kind of a big picture decision the board needs to consider. And then you look at District 1, Sunland Park, it's low, and District 2 is on the high end. So it really makes sense. You really have no choice. District 1 has to go north, and there's no way about it. Just it has to go north to pick up the population it needs. It goes into District 2, and in every single plan that also requires the District 2. We take so much out of 2 that 2 also has to move north or east a little bit to add population to it. So it's kind of this domino effect. You might think you make one change and that's it, but in this case, every single district is going to change. So there's some big picture things. So with Sunland Park, we have to kind of decide how far north do we go. Chaparral, we have to decide what part goes into another district and which district it goes into. And with respect to kind of the Anthony, Chamberino kind of area, kind of have to decide, well, how does District 2 add some of that population it needs? Does it cross the river, or does it go north on the west side of the Rio Grande? So this one, when we talk about precinct splits, that can be important, but I'll just go ahead and mention them as we go through. I think the current district splits 7 precincts. And I'll try to mention that as we go along for the other concepts. So let me look at concept A. And it should pop up. There we go.
Great. So concept A, the basic thinking here was, well, District 3 already goes down the east side of I-10. And then I can also throw on your current district so you can have a point of reference. Let's see if they'll pop up. There we go. So the lines in white and green are your current districts. And so you can see the District 3 does go down to the county line east of I-10. So I thought, well, maybe the first place to start, one idea is what happens if you just leave District 3 where it is and extend it east into Chaparral. And the little blue markers on the map are your school locations, and the red markers are the current board member locations. And again, the white and green is the current districts. And so with respect to District 3 and District 5, I can zoom in just so you can kind of see what happens and where those boundaries are. And so here's a Chaparral on the Doña. So all the changes happen on the Doña Ana County side. And District 3, it moves into Chaparral. I'll kind of zoom in again so you can kind of see, but I want to give you some points of reference. And kind of here's kind of 3 goes to Wicker, and then Byram and Lisa and McCombs down to El Paso to the county line and then down. So that's kind of that boundary between 3 and 5. So 3 had to go that far into Chaparral to take out, over 4,000 people to get District 5 down to the population that it needs to be. So that's the change between 3 and 5. So 3 was too small, 5 was too big. 3 took all that population for 5, but since 3 took so much, 3 is now too big. So 3 is now too big. So how do we reduce the population of 3? Well, 4 was too small to begin with. So District 4 moves north into Barreno. And it basically takes almost the entire community. And it goes up to, I'll get the little street here so you can see it. I think that's Calle El Rumbo. And that's the northern part of 4. So District 4 does move north a little bit and takes almost all of Barreno. So that helped with removing population from 3, but not quite enough. So the other district we used was District 2. So you notice the current lines in the white and green. District 3 does go down into Chamberino. And even though we removed Barreno from District 3, it's still too big, District 3 is. So we decided, well, let's just take District 2 and move up and remove Chamberino from District 3. And so now District 3 is fine. It's at -3 below the ideal population. It's within that plus or minus 5%. So you see the district number and the deviation below it. So we've taken care of districts 3, 4, and 5. And District 2 was used to help that. And District 1, if you recall, was too small. It has to get bigger right now because District 2 took Chamberino and now has enough population to give up to District 1. So District 1 moves north on the west side of McNutt. So it adds a lot of population to get within that plus or minus 5%. So it goes up on the east side, excuse me, if I said west, I misstated. I'm up the east side of McNutt, up to, show you the boundary here, Naranjo, and then over to Crawford, and then over to the state line. So that's the northern boundary of 1. 1 had to go that far up the east side of McNutt to get the population that it needed. And so one thing that sometimes can be important are the locations of the schools and how are the schools impacted by the redistricting. It can be important to the board members to know, well, what schools are in your districts. And so within but that change between districts 1 and 2, the administrative center, pre-K, and Santa Teresa Middle School do move from District 2 to District 1. And then in the Barreno area, I'll kind of zoom into that. And you can see the little blue dots. And again, The white and green is your current districts, and right now, the folks north of that green line are in District 3, but they had to move into District 4. So Desert Pride Academy, Alta Vista Early College, and Perino Elementary do move into District 4 from District 3 in this point. And there are 4 split precincts. Okay, so let's move on to Concept B. And Concept B, and really all the ones that follow it, I wanted to at least start with a different district going over to Chaparral. So instead of using District 3, we use District 4. If one wants to make the argument that, well, geez, you have a highway, and it literally goes from Anthony to Chaparral, and just goes through geography to get to the 2 communities. Well, maybe it makes sense to combine part of Chaparral with Anthony. Maybe there's more commonality there than there is between San Miguel, La Mesa, and Mesquite with Chaparral. So in this case, District 4 does move over to Chaparral and takes that population that has to be removed from District 5. And so that's what we did here. So District 4 does move east over to Chaparral, and I'll zoom in here again to the boundaries. And zoom in here again so you can see the roads there pop up. Again, it's Wickers before, Byram, Lisa, and then over to Chaparral Drive, and down Chaparral Drive over to El Paso, and then El Paso Drive over to the county line, and then straight down. So really, really similar to the previous plan we saw, but instead of going down McCombs between Lisa and El Paso, it goes down Chaparral. And so it's one narrow block to the west of what we saw before, and also it follows the precinct line in this particular plan. So not much too different in where the line is. It's a matter of what district goes up to that line. Okay, so now District 4 is really, it's on the high end. It has too many people, just like we saw last time with District 3. Well, now it's District 4's turn to to be too big, because it took all those people from Chaparral. And so what do? I'll turn on the current districts, and just so you can see. There we go. And let's kind of zoom in here. Let's see, I'm going to close this so it gets out of the way. All right. District 4 added a whole bunch of people. So District 3 is going to take up that slack, take up all of that excess population that District 4 has. And so District 3 currently has most of Barreno, and goes down to and includes the 3 schools, and it goes further south, and it goes further south to Joy, where Joy meets up with Highway 478, and then it goes down between 478 and the river. So all that area north of Joy goes into 3, and then area south of Joy between the river and 478 also goes into 3. So I can also zoom in. Here's Joy, that kind of right in the middle of your screen, and then I'll kind of zoom into this area so you can see it a little better. This is Anthony Drive. So District 3 goes down Anthony Drive to Joy, and Joy over to really it's the railroad tracks, but the railroad tracks in 478, they are parallel. So a lot of people move from, basically the western half of District 4 moves from 4 to District 3. Because District 3 took so much, it's now, it actually has a lot more people than it needs. And how do we fix that? Well, again, we take District 2 and we move District 2 north along the west side of the river and takes Chamberino into District 2 to help with District 3. So the same situation as before, District 1's too small. We can go into District 2, same northern boundary at Naranjo. But I decided, well, there's a neighborhood at the end of Memorial Pines Road. And what would happen if we just tried to incorporate more of, kind of that Sunland Park proper population within the incorporated area into the Sunland Park based District 1. And so District 1 does extend west to take in that neighborhood if we're thinking about incorporated areas. And this particular change, really, honestly, it can be incorporated into this plan. Or if you really don't like how it looks, and you just rather have it go up McNutt, then that whole area west of McNutt and north of Memorial Pines and the neighborhood can go into 2 instead of 1. So it's kind of like either or. It doesn't really matter, and it doesn't really affect it affects the population, but not enough to exceed our deviations.
Mr. Sharp, if I may interrupt you.
Yes, please.
Maps that you're currently showing us, that is exclusive to you. We don't have those, correct? Because you're able to manipulate. So the slides that you provided to us, we don't have those, correct?
I'm sure. Is this? I think I provided some PDFs.
Can you?
This is most of it, but it's missing like part of the slide 17.
Oh, go ahead. You want to tell them what you're noticing, Ms. Rodriguez? It's just that we were trying to follow along with what you're presenting with the slides that were provided to us.
Okay.
And I'm thinking maybe because you have that software you're able to like zoom in, so maybe that's why.
Okay. Yeah, it's just easier for me to kind of zoom in and out. Because I can also kind of go into more, really zoom in and hopefully answer questions if you have any that come along. But at least I try to keep the colors the same, but they're the same boundaries. They're just kind of a different, I guess, display of them. I just want to make sure that you can see what's on the screen and it is making sense. And if it's not, please ask and I'll clarify.
No, it's making sense. It's just didn't match. But no, you can continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's concept B. I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. So the schools that moved are the Administrative Center Pre-K and Santa Teresa Middle School. Also, they like previously, they go from District 2 to District 1, and they do that in every plan. And then the other change is that Gadsden Middle School moves from District 2 to District 3. So I'll kind of zoom in. District 2 did go, I believe, over the river a little bit, just barely. And 2 has currently Gadsden Middle School, and District 3 now has Gadsden Middle School. So in terms of school impacts, that's how schools change between districts. There are only 2 split precincts in this particular plan, whereas there were 7 in your current orientation of your districts. Okay, so that's concept B. So I'll move on to concept C. So concept C, it's just a different take on Chaparral. We've seen already that we took population from the southwestern part of the community, and this was to give you an idea of what happens if you take population from the northwest part of the community. And it is a pretty significant difference with respect to the schools. So be straightforward with that. And in this case, District 4, it does still go into Chaparral, but it stays north of County Road, A74 and Hermosa, and up Chaparral and up to Luna Azul over to County Line Road. So everything north of that boundary is going to be in District 4. In the past plans, the northern side in this area on the Doñana County side was in District 5. So it does mean that all the schools in Chaparral, in the Doñana side, Chaparral Middle School, Elementary School, Desert Trail, the high school, Chaparral Pre-K, and Sunrise Elementary, all are now in District 4. So if keeping the Chaparral schools in a Chaparral-based district, i.e. District 5, is important, then this plan probably doesn't work very well.
Mr. Sharp, on that map
Yes.
that you just finished showing, if you can go back to what you were displaying.
Sure.
I'm just curious. So like Luna Azul Drive, would that be District 5 or District 4?
So Luna Azul Drive, the southern part is in District 5. The northern, everything north of Luna Azul in Doñana County is in District 4.
Okay.
Okay, and then let's see. The other thing I thought with respect to options that you might be interested in is currently District 3 has Chamberino. And what would a plan look like if we, in the previous two plans, both Chamberino went into District 2. So what happens if we say, well, we would really like Chamberino to stay in District 3? Maybe that makes more sense. And so in this case, Chamberino stays in District 3. And District 2 in the previous plans, it went up the west side of the river. Instead, it crosses the river and goes all the way over to the railroad and Highway 478. So south of Joy.
Mr. Sharp, may I ask a question just to make
Yes.
sure? Okay, so I should be thinking what's more relevant is the students that represent, not the buildings, correct? Because in that other one that I asked you, yeah, most of the buildings are, because I live on Luna Azul Drive, so most of the buildings are, our school buildings are north of where I live, so it's more of the idea of thinking of the students that we represent and how you're cutting the districts, correct?
Well, that's one perspective, and that's kind of what falls within as communities of interest. There's a big debate about who do you represent? Do you represent? And it's on in different levels. And so obviously you represent the people in general, the population as a whole, who elect you, the adults who are registered to vote who elect you. But you can also take a look at, who are the students that I represent, what are the schools that I currently represent? Because I think a lot of times people say, well, my student attends, say, Chaparral Middle School, and my board member lives in Chaparral. Well, for this plan, how come when I want to talk to my board member, I have to talk to a board member who's in Anthony instead? Whereas, and that in terms of the school locations, now the attendance boundary is a little bit different. That's a little bit more challenging to follow, but in terms of following the lines, but it just kind of depends on your perspective and what is your priority. There is some confusion sometimes about where parents, students attend school and in which board members' district those schools are located. So this could cause some confusion on that, and from that perspective, for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's see. So I wanted to zoom in. So in the previous plan, District 2 went into Chamberino. In this case, it stays in District 3. In the previous plan, District 3 went down south of Joy between the river and Highway 478 and the railroad tracks. But because 3 took Chamberino, 2 can cross the river instead and take that area south of Joy over to the railroad tracks. So now District 2 goes all the way over to border District 4, and I can throw your current boundaries on there, kind of the white and green lines. So you see that area that used to be, it currently is in District 4, west of the railroad tracks, and south of Joy is now in 2. Gadsden Middle School stays in District 2. So District 2 basically just continues on to the north and the east up to Joy. And between Districts 1 and 2, I kept the neighborhood at the end of Memorial Pines Drive in District 1. So no change there from the previous plan. One thing to note is that District 3 does go down to the northern part of La Union. And there are some folks on the north side of this precinct boundary that are in District 3. So I mentioned the schools. So all the schools on the Doñana side, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 schools go from District 5 to District 4 are now in a board member's district who represents Anthony. There are 3 split precincts as compared to 2 in the previous plan. Again, the split precincts, I think on all these plans, they improve upon what you have now. And you don't have to stick to precinct lines, but it is nice to at least reduce the number of splits that you have today. I think that would be helpful, at least from a voter perspective. And I think the clerk also appreciates it in terms of ease of administering elections. Okay, let's take a look at concept D. Okay. All right, so in concept D, I kind of undid that. I went back to the previous plans where the Chaparral population goes into force. So now all the schools in Chaparral are in a Chaparral-based district, and I want to say, represented by a board member who lives in the district. And so I wanted to kind of revert back to that to give you some options. Then, so combines the adjustment from the previous concept B with a northern adjustment of concept C. So we saw before in the previous plan, I know there's a lot of concepts, but the previous concept C had District 2 going up to Joy into the railroad tracks. So what I really wanted to do was kind of keep that, but go back into the Chaparral area and go back to concept B and say, all right, let's just keep all the schools kind of together in a single district within the Chaparral area and combine one part from a previous concept with another and combine them into one. So you can kind of see, well, sometimes you can mix and match some of the things you like and create something new. So Chamberino does stay with 3. The difference between this one and the previous one is that the boundary between 2 and 3 moves north a little bit. So all of La Union is in District 2. There were a few of them who were in District 3 in the previous concept. And in fact, this kind of goes back to the boundary between 2 and 3 in the Chamberino area now goes back to what it is today. So you can kind of see between 2 and 3, it does follow the same boundary. So that red and white is your current district. So in terms of things not changing in this particular spot, there wouldn't really be any change. So I think that's important to note. With respect to between districts 1 and 2, the community, the neighborhood at the end of Memorial Pines is back into District 2. So again, that can be put in either District 1 or 2 in all these plans. It doesn't really impact the numbers with respect to exceeding the allowable deviation. So that's kind of the choice of the board. What do you prefer? Again, the only two schools that change districts will be Administrative Center of Pre-K and Santa Teresa Middle School. And there's 2 precinct splits in this plan. Okay, and finally, let's go to concept E. So this is the same as concept D, but I wanted to make one change between districts 1 and 2 to add more of Sunland Park to the Sunland Park District 1. And so I just wanted to see what would happen because admittedly the going out to that Memorial Pines neighborhood kind of sticks out. And well, geez, what would happen if you just kind of continue north and maybe put more of incorporated Sunland Park into a Sunland Park district just to see what happens? And you certainly can. So now District 1 in this concept E takes everything on the east side of McNutt up to Naranjo, and then on the west side, it goes up to Country Club. And so it goes up the west side of McNutt to Country Club and takes everybody south of McNutt and puts them into District 1. And it also adds part, so I followed the precinct line here, and so it also adds part of that, the Santa Teresa intermodal area. And I believe there are no other changes from concept D. Really, that's it. It's concept D and I just made some change between districts 1 and 2, just like before. The pre-K at the Administrative Center and Santa Teresa Middle School both moved from districts 2 to district 1, and there are 3 precinct splits. So that's a lot of information, I realize. And what some school districts do, and I'll take your questions, but I'm going to mention that what some districts do is, they would say, well, geez, I have 5 concepts here. Do we really want to consider all of them, or you want to kind of narrow them down to the ones you want to consider further? That's a discussion the board may or may not have, or may or may not want to have. But it's something that others have done, just to kind of, because you have 5 variations, sometimes it's good to kind of narrow them down to the 1 or the 2 or the 3 that you really feel are worth considering. And then if there are any changes to any of them, like you'd like to see this, you'd like to see that, then we can certainly take that into account if it meets the redistricting guidelines. So if there are any, open to any questions that you may have on any of the concepts, general thinking, any of the boundaries that you may have. And
do we have any questions, comments, or concerns? Mrs. Maria, go ahead.
So I'm looking at, so where the star is, where it says Santa Teresa and McNutt, that is my backyard. So am I in my own district or I'm not? Some district 2. But I see the red line where it says number 1 and the number 2. So we divide that street between both districts. So I would just like to know if I'm in my own district.
Okay, that's an excellent question. So District 1, and I kind of zoomed into that area, so you can really get an idea. The boundary of District 1 goes up McNutt to Naranjo.
Right, Naranjo is my street.
And so,
Can't see that.
okay, so I'll show you something else here, if I could. Hopefully it'll show up. So everything south of Naranjo is the District 1. Everything north of Naranjo is in District 2. And that's the neighborhood on Tuscan Ridge?
Yes.
Correct. So the Tuscan Ridge, all the houses along Tuscan Ridge are in District 2.
In District what, sorry?
In District 2?
Okay. And then also, just to my fellow colleagues here, I attended the Sunland Park meetings when they were doing the redistricting, and this is just me personally, it was better to be present, seeing this and then touching and being more involved, as for him to be back there. So I don't know if maybe like the next meeting will be, sorry, Mr. Castillo, a workshop. Will that be better? And because it is a lot of information, and then it's just hard for me to hear.
Would the gentleman would you be able to come down for a workshop, sir? I guess make arrangements with Mr. Dempsey.
Yes, I can certainly do that, and during a workshop is fine. I mean, these can be, as with any sort of school board legislation, it's considered a workshop. Whatever process works best for you, I can do.
Okay, thank you. Any other further questions, comments? No. Okay, I don't think we have any further questions, sir. Was that the end of your presentation?
That is it.
Okay, Mr. Sharp. Well, thank you so much for your presentation, and we'll talk to Mr. Dempsey about probably, but I like Ms. Muriel's idea of maybe having you come down, having a special workshop, and then being able probably to project with you present and us being able to manipulate, yes, moving the puzzles.
Okay.
But thank you so much for your presentation. You have a good evening.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good evening. Take care.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our next discussion item, which is 11C, policy advisories 238 through 245, Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, so recently we received policy advisories from the New Mexico School Boards Association, and they are, I believe, there's 8 policy advisories in total. If you review those, there's direct impacts on multiple departments within Gadsden ISD. Obviously, my office would be impacted, technology, media, and human resources. They're primarily around board governance, so I think it's very important that the board engage with those and understand. 2 ways we can do this. Historically, we typically will just take them one at a time and review them as a whole group. You might consider assigning or having volunteers work in as a policy group, a policy team, and create a policy committee so that you then can engage all those groups in that conversation, because the changes, for example, I believe live streaming is now going to be a requirement, and so our technology department has to be aware of that and what those requirements look like. Our superintendent's office we take care of the posting, but technology helps us with the posting of agendas and gets that out there on our district webpage. And then obviously Mr. Carmona and his work is very critical to it. So we can handle those with whatever directive you give me.
Any discussions, questions for Mr. Dempsey? Ms. Rodriguez? Oh, I thought you raised your hand. Okay. Anybody? Mrs. Murillo?
So if we have volunteers and there's 2 members, they get together, they have the conversation, and then they come and present it to the rest of the board?
Madam President, board members, that is how you could do it. It's really the board can decide how you want that to be, or you could assign that policy committee to determine what's best. And you might have it might make sense to have multiple people presenting, because one policy might impact multiple departments or just one.
Let me make sure I understand. So these are policy advisories coming down that we need to make changes to our policy. I guess more information, where we're going to derive these, but where are the directives?
Mr. Study, will you click on the hyperlink at the top?
Yeah.
These are all sent to you through Mr. Guillen and the New Mexico School Boards Association. And I believe it's a hyperlink, and so this is what they look like. There's an example: board powers and responsibilities, one of the advisories, school board meetings, executive sessions and open meetings, notifications of board meetings, agenda preparation and dissemination, minutes, public participation in board meetings, and superintendent. And so you see these particular ones are based on changes in statute. And so it doesn't always work out to where they're wrapped around one particular item. This one pretty much is.
Any further questions or comments? Ms. Maria?
So I would suggest if we can have volunteers to attend, just like Mr. Castillo and I did we attended with Mr. Chavez, and then presented to you guys so you guys know what was going on, and then decided as a board.
How soon do we need to volunteer? Or
Madam President, board members, we probably, things of this nature typically will be implemented July 1st. And so we probably need to get moving here in June so that we're in line with those pieces.
because we should do it tonight. Okay, so I guess take a look at the link, and then if we want to volunteer, think about where you would want to volunteer. So there's 8 of them. So I'm going to go down the list. Let's see. Okay, so the first one is Policy Advisory 238, and it entails board powers and responsibilities. Who's interested in those? Ms. Rodriguez? Okay, are you interested? Okay, so Mr. Lira. So Rodriguez and Mr. Lira for 238. How about for Policy Advisor 239, school board meetings? I'll do 239. So must there be two, or, I mean, is that what they're asking?
Madam President, board members, it's however you determine that. I mean, I think one representative, I think we can make those work if that's what you choose.
Okay. So, anybody else for 239? Okay, Ms. Rodriguez? Okay, 240, which is executive session open meetings, or open meetings.
Ms. Flores, I would like to do that one.
Murillo for 240. Anybody else? Okay. 241, notification of board meetings.
Is it 241?
Yeah, notification of
I
board.
think that will be with a 239, no? School board meetings with a notification.
Can we you know what, that's
Yeah,
a good
you
idea.
can combine them.
Maybe we
Combine
can
what is
combine them.
related to each other.
Madam President, board members, you might want to choose to
How
combine
about-
them. That's up to you. Some of them are going to overlap, like probably notification of board meetings and school board meetings are going to have some overlap, so you might consider those.
Which also would be 242, agenda preparation.
Agenda preparation, dissemination, and minutes will have a lot in common. Those will be very similar.
Yeah, they're all, well, yeah, it's 239 through 244, they're all related. And then I'm going to say that 238 and 245 are related. Let me see, 238. Are you okay, Ms. Rodriguez and Mr. Lira, with like 238 and 245, which is superintendent, to be combined? Meaning, okay, so I'm going to put 238E to 45, Mr. Lira and Ms. Rodriguez, and then that would leave us with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How about we do 2 groups to where we can combine 239 through 241, and then 242 through 244, and then that way we can pick from that group. Does that make sense? So so I'll stick with the 239 through 241. Now, you're up, is that okay with you, Ms. Rodriguez? Or whoever else wants to join?
So, Ms. Flores, don't you do the agenda preparation with Mr. Dempsey as the president? So wouldn't, right?
So then you want to put that,
So I'm saying like you will have to do that one, right? Because as the president, she prepares the agenda with you?
Madam President, board members, if that's how you choose. Any one of you eventually could be president in that role, but that is true that right now, Ms. Flores and I do agenda preparation.
so I'm going to open the floor. How would you like to combine them?
Well, I think because you're the board president, and if you're already doing the agenda, you should be in that one. Or the president should be in that one, the 242. And then public participation, you also do that already.
So you're suggesting then 230, so then you're saying 238,
I'm throwing you into the fire.
244, and 245, ¿verdad?
38 and
44.
44 as well?
That's what just Ms. Murillo said.
Well, I'm just saying
Yeah,
because that's something that you're already doing.
Are we okay with that? So 238, 244, 245. So that would be board powers and responsibilities, public participation at board meetings, and the superintendent. I'm okay with that. But that would mean, well, so you're suggesting I should be in there, or? But that means, no, I will be in there. That's okay. The only thing is, Ms. Rodriguez and Mr. Lira were wanting 238.
I think it really, Madam President, sorry. I think it really doesn't matter because eventually we all need to learn the process. And so I don't think that that really will affect any. So keeping the 238, 245, 239, 241, which was what, and then 242 and 244, that would complete everything, right?
So let me see. So let me repeat. So if we do 238 and 245, that's one group, and that would be Mr. Lira and yourself. And then originally I had suggested let's just clump 239 to 241. That would be another group. And then 242 to 244. So then we would just need volunteers. So I would say that I don't mind being in the 239 through 241. And then whoever, and then Ms. Murillo and Mr. Castillo, which group would you like to join?
I'll do that 239, 241. Well, you know what? Hold on. Sorry.
I think initially it was the 242 to 244, no? For you?
No, originally she wanted 240, which was
239, 241.
Okay, so which group do you want to be?
239, 241.
Okay, so that's going to be with me. And so that leaves 242 to 244, Mr. Castillo. Is there a board member that would like to join Mr. Castillo?
I can join him. Oh, you.
So, are Ms. Rodriguez or?
Who do you want, Mr. Castillo?
Okay, ladies, so who wants to join Mr. Murillo, Mr.
Madam
Castillo?
President, I mean, since I'm being voluntold, 239 to 244, they're all meetings, right? So, I mean, it should be just one group for all those because they're all meetings.
That's another way to think of it.
I mean, I get the 238 and the 245. I truly believe those are, they do. But 239 to 244, they're all meetings. So, I mean, it should just be the one group. And because as we work through that, I mean, those do overlap. So, I mean,
Madam President, board members, I would not recommend having 3 members on a committee because you'll have to post it.
That's true.
So that means I'm voluntold, and then you guys can handle the 6. Thank you, Mr. Dempsey.
So is there somebody who would like to join Mr. Castillo?
For the 239 to
No,
244?
for the 242 and through 244, which is agenda preparation, minutes, and public participation. Yeah, he proposed that everything should be together, which I agree. However, actually, well, you can clump it all together as long as there's only 2 of you, or 2 of us. Okay, so I like that idea then. Then 239, dijimos, through 244, so then 2 people. So Mr. Castillo, and who else? Sure, I'll join. Okay, so let me make sure we have, so we got, so then 238 through 238 and 245 is going to be Rodriguez and Lira. And then 239 through 241, myself and Ms. Murillo. And then 230. Oh, I am so sorry. Okay, let me backtrack. 238, 25, Rodriguez Lira. And then would be me and Mr. Castillo. Okay. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Madam President, can I make sure I have this correct in my notes? 238 and 245 would be Ms. Rodriguez and Mr. Lira. 239 through 244 will be Mr. Castillo and yourself.
Correct. So we just have two groups. Okay. Okay, so do we need to decide like meeting dates?
Madam President, what I would do is I'll make sure you have copies of these at the top of your emails, and then I'll probably work to assign different individuals to those so that you work directly with that staff. Probably some virtual meetings. Might be an easy way to get everybody together real quick, just to summarize them, and they are summarized for you. I want to start with making sure everybody's read them and understands what it probably is good to review the current policy with what the changes are. And it'll do that for you, but it's always nice to look at that so you understand what those changes are and what the expectation is.
Okay.
Okay.
If there's no further questions, comments, okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to board trainings. Mr. Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, through some conversations with President Flores, we kind of thought about there might be some very specific training items that the board would like to see for you. Many times we go to conferences and those breakout sessions or even the keynotes are already set for you, and that may possibly not be meeting your needs. And so I didn't know if we wanted to start a brainstorm, just a list of things that board members feel like they need training on, and then I'll try to work to find individuals to bring them possibly in or do something virtually to provide that for you.
And the reason I brought this up, I wanted to give us an opportunity, like the gentleman said, is that when we go to trainings, we've brought ideas back to our district, and but I think just like teachers, we need to. Thank you, sir, for being willing to differentiate instruction for us and professional development, so that that we can actually, because when we go to these meetings, yeah, they're good. We always bring something new, but then when we have questions, then we got to get in line at the end to ask questions of the lawyers, and then sometimes there's a long line and they never get to us or whatever, not because they don't want to, but this way we have them in front of us just for us, and ask our questions so that they're specific to our district needs. So if that's why I did that. If you have ideas at this time, or you want to have time to reflect, Mr. Dempsey is willing to look into bringing us professional development. So if you have something that I'm not ready right now. It's been crazy, right? So, let me reflect. I appreciate you being willing, but, think about it. If you have ideas right now, you're welcome to communicate those. If you need more time, just go ahead and we can email them to Mr. Dempsey. That will work out too.
President, it's funny that you do bring this up on the workshop on the budget week. I was looking at budget workshops for superintendents. For board members. And in New Mexico, I searched, and I'm pretty good at searching online. And New Mexico doesn't have a program, but there's other states like in Connecticut or Arizona where there's private, private firms that actually teach board members the basics on budgets and what to ask and what to look for. And I'm gonna send you some of the links, and maybe we can go ahead and I don't know if they're able to apply it to our budgets here, if it's somebody from out of state, or maybe somebody that actually can sit with us and tell us how where the line items are and where just basic questions about the budget. I think that would be one that I would like to see, and I had been doing some research on it already.
Okay. Did you make a note of that, Mr. Dempsey? So budget, and I would definitely agree budget. Mrs. Murillo.
We actually have, I don't know, Mr. Lira, if you know him, but Secretary Arsenio Romero, he actually teach classes in Western, and he was my professor for budget. So I learned because of him, and so there was continuous conversations. So I don't know, maybe that will be a person that is willing to teach again. He was a guest speaker for one of my classes this last semester, and we talked a little bit about budget for future administrators for the master's class. So he was really good, and I really like that I told him, you need to tell me with like pears and oranges because it's really hard for me. And he went like line through line, and he asked me for the current budget. So I took him the book, and he was like, look, this is how you read this. So he was really good, and he's from New Mexico, and he's our Secretary of Public Education. So, I mean, I know what time he might not be it, but I thought maybe it's a good idea that we could ask.
President Flores.
Go ahead, Mel.
I think that's a great idea, but I think we need to stick to phase one, where we need to identify what needs we have. And then once we have the list, I believe we'll go into phase two to identify who can deliver the needs that we have, right, for the trainings. So I personally, I think I would want more time to discuss this, or not time, but not to discuss it, but to be able to provide that to Mr. Dempsey. That way we already have things that we are seeing that are necessary. And then from there, go on to phase two. Yes?
Okay. So I'm going to say that I value both of your opinions. I don't, yes, identify training needs, but I don't see anything wrong with Ms. Murillo. Because actually I was going to say it in public, and I still haven't sent you. When we were approving the agenda, I had mentioned to Mr. Dempsey, and actually I'm going to share two things that I would like added. Is one of them is I feel that as a board, we need team building time with each other. Why? Because, you know, the only really time that we see each other is at board meetings or when we go to conferences. And so when, you know, this for public knowledge is when we are at conferences or when there's a quorum of us, we really, well, we can't speak about board business, but that doesn't mean that we can't meet in order, you know, through conversations, stuff like that, we start to learn each other. But I think also team building is something for me that's important, of why, you know, understanding why we react the way we do, learning our personalities. That's all about, because we are a board, we are working together. So I think team building would be something definitely that I would request. And why I was saying this is because I was going to recommend to the gentleman with, you know, I'm not saying tonight we're approving anything, but, and I forgot her name right now. There's a consultant that says that she could, and of course, anybody who wants to make money, they're going to come to you and say, hey, we provide this. But, you know, he can do the research and see if it's this consultant company where they can provide team building activities for us as a board. The other one that I would like to propose is, you know, any of you, when we reorganize the board the following year, one of you will be, I will step down as board president and you will continue, you know, depending who's nominated. And so we've got the roles as, you know, president, vice president, and secretary. And so I would like to request training as far as what is the role of these positions, because when I came on board, like I had no clue. And, you know, I'm learning as I'm going. So I think that's important. And then something that I was telling the gentleman is that when you become board president, I didn't know, for whatever reason, that you can access the lawyer till I think I started accessing the lawyer maybe like a year ago. I don't know. But like, you know, the do's and don'ts, nobody teaches you. So it's to have those conversations, I think is important. That way, when you become the next school board president, you know, we're more aware of what we get to do, what we don't get to do, rules and regulations. So at least for right now, those are my two suggestions for myself. Anybody else? And yes, if you want to think about it, and then just shoot Mr. Dempsey an email if you have any other PD that you feel that you may need as an individual, because sometimes if you feel that, you know, maybe somebody else hasn't thought of it and, you know, it could benefit us all. Okay. I think nobody else has any other comments for that. Thank you for your willingness to do that, sir. Okay, moving on to discussion item 11E, monthly budget report for the month ending April 30th, 2024. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Martinez will present this item.
Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey. I bring to you for discussion the monthly budget report for April 30th, 2024. Operational fund revenues as of April 30th were $133.8 million. Operational expenditures were $125.5 million. As of April 30th, the operational fund cash balance before loans was $74.6 million, and after temporary loans of $4.5 million, that amount was reduced to, I'm sorry, I'm not wearing my glasses, I'm having a hard time seeing, was reduced to $69.7 million. Total revenues, thank you, sorry, it's okay. Okay, total revenues as of April 30th were $262.6 million. Total expenditures for all funds were $214.4 million. Direct instruction expenditures plus encumbrances were $100.7 million, or 62.62% of the total operational fund expenditures. As of April 30th, all banks were in compliance with pledge collateral requirements. Do you have any questions?
Any questions, comments for Ms. Martinez? Go ahead, ma'am.
Ms. Martinez, for the next board meeting, that's where you introduce the one for May for like the closing of the school year?
So this is April. We will be closing May in early June. So we'll probably bring May.
In July?
In July.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes they do kind of get behind a little bit, but we close in June, so we'll bring June shortly after.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I was just going to make the comment that make sure board members that you turned in your phone bills and all of that, because as the year is coming, Miss Mary Lou has to turn all that in before the fiscal year ends. So I just want to say thank you so much for all your work and your team. Thank you, ladies, for everything you had to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay. So that concludes our discussion items, and we're, as listed on item 12, those are our upcoming board meetings and events. Just a reminder that our next board meeting will be taking place for this fiscal year will be Thursday, June 6th at 5 p.m. here at the GAC. And then just a reminder that we will see you all on Saturday, God willing, to actually Friday, mañana, for our graduation ceremonies. And I did want to thank again, Ms. Cadena, thank you so much for that opportunity on May 28th for Gadsden Middle School. And so look forward to seeing individuals out there who want to reminisce. And the rest is listed there. Let me see. And with that being said, I make a motion that we enter closed session, limited personnel matters pursuant to 1015-1H-2 of the Open Meetings Act and MSA 1978 as amended for superintendents and associate superintendents report on employees and administrative leave with pay, employee grievances, employee issues, superintendent's contract. Ms. Mary Lou, can you please take roll call to enter into closed session?
Mr. Castillo?
Aye.
Ms. Flores?
Aye.
Mr. Lira?
Aye.
Ms. Murillo?
Aye.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Aye.
Okay, that vote is unanimous. We are now in closed session. Folks, have a good evening.